disruptive.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, once again, cheerleading for the atrocity of continuing slush money into Ukraine. We are notorious for making stories, pushing Russian propaganda to fearmonger against Russia and Vladimir Putin. And we're, Justin Trudeau is kind of this Hail Mary cheerleader when it comes to Zelensky and doing whatever it takes to propagate this war, including bringing a Nazi, an actual Nazi, to the Parliament building so that they could applaud twice, not just once, but twice on live television in Parliament. That is how low we have sunken as Canadians, as peacekeepers. Our identity is just stricken away to become the warmongers that we impose to be under the globalist world war order. It is just absolutely insane and insidious how low people can go. And here's Justin Trudeau in a news conference, again, doing his same old trope of cheerleading for Ukraine by fixating stories against Vladimir Putin. And listen to what he's about to say here in reflection to his governance when it comes to Canadians. You'll notice what I mean. Take a look.
For all that Putin pretends to be strong, he's actually a coward. To execute one's political opponents, to quash dissent by using police and military, to make sure there is no opposition, is the mark of a weakling, not a mark of someone who is confident in his own position. To quash dissent by using police and military, to make sure there is no opposition. The federal government.
So this is from the Canadian Independent. And he's trying to say that Putin is some sort of coward, that he's not actually a notorious thug that we thought he was. And I love how they play both sides to propagate, the evil of Vladimir Putin. Like, he's such a tough guy that he's going to take over Ukraine and dominate over the Baltic states. But yet he's also a coward because he somehow eliminated his arch rivals politically and silenced out dissent in his country. Even though Justin Trudeau, and you're about to see here, Justin Trudeau has done this countless times to his own Canadians. We have seen with the Freedom Convoy, his reaction to that. We have seen him cowardly away, going to his cabin, announcing that, I can't negotiate with the Freedom Convoy and actually come to a discussion because I just got COVID all of a sudden. So I'm going to hide away from you guys and just let the Ottawa police and the RCMP tackle you down, attack ordinary Canadians. And here's where the Canadian Independent brings this up to attention in this great video clip here.
Government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
The crackdown north of the border tonight, police moving in to end the 3-week protest over COVID rules that has paralyzed the Canadian capital for weeks now. Hundreds of police officers taking action, issuing final warnings, and then making arrests, at times clashing with protesters.
Tonight, after 3 weeks of paralyzing downtown Ottawa, police in riot gear taking on the so-called Freedom Convoy protesters. Police forced open this RV, arresting the driver.
Police on horseback moved in, with armored vehicles not far behind. Police deployed flashbangs and pepper spray. Protesters claimed the use of force was not justified.
The officers who came out were wearing riot gear. They were on the front lines and they were carrying large wooden batons with them, which they were using to strike people.
That, my friends, is downtown Ottawa in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Friendly neighbor of the North Canada. It may look like Moscow with the weather and the toques and all the hats and clothing gear, but that was February of 2022 when Justin Trudeau invoked an Emergencies Powers Act, which hasn't been used since the days of war, to enact violence against ordinary, peaceful Canadians practicing their right of free speech and right to protest. And he says that Putin is the coward. He says that Putin is the ultimate coward because he took down his political opponent, who was actually a CIA tool established to take over and do a regime change in Russia. They were trying to Juan Guaido Russia by installing Alexei Navalny to go after Vladimir Putin. And guess what? It failed. It failed. People saw right through it. They saw that he was a CIA asset tool, and he got eliminated. But yet everybody came to defense of him, but nobody came to defense of Gonzo Lira. No one came to defense of Julian Assange. No one came to defense to anybody that want to stop this war, stop this nonsense, stop the crazy barbaric measures that's separating, dividing us all around the world, and bring us to some sort of peace, unity, and synchronicity that we could all as human beings thrive upon so we can better ourselves and evolve to a better state of society. It's just insane. Insane. It is like a lunacy. These are psychopaths in control of parliament, in control of governance, making up cringeworthy stories to beat the heads over each other and make you fool each other so that, you know, stuff like this, when people are protesting ordinary Canadians against authoritarian measures, that the authoritarians somehow seem like the peaceful ones. They are the resistors against, you know, truckers and their bouncy castles and giving up food. How dare they? They are such neo-Nazis. They're such white supremacists. That's what Justin Trudeau said on French television. Let's not forget that. Because he didn't bother saying on English-speaking television, because if it's English-speaking television, people will be aware of it. So he went on some French late-night show that barely gets any viewers and was able to blurt out, yeah, I think they're white supremacists. I think they're Nazis. I think they're formation with Russia. You know, like a good, strong leader would. A good, strong leader always attacks almost half the population of Canada at this rally. A good, strong leader would hide and cower away to his cabin and let big pharmaceuticals dominate over governance. That's what a strong leader does, right? So here it is again. This time, this is on CTV News Channel, and this is during a press conference. And watch again. He's going to say this about Vladimir Putin, but then they take this video and then explain to people the absurdity, the hypocrisy that Trudeau's saying this to Vladimir Putin as he did this to ordinary Canadians. And we're still dealing with to this day. Chris Barber and Tamara Lynch are still in captivity. They're still in custody. They're still trying to figure out trial situation because they keep coming up with trumped up charges to keep them in isolation away from the general public because they don't want people to know. They don't want people to know that Chris Barber and Tamara Lynch were prosecuted politically by Justin Trudeau. They don't want people to know this is a political attack done by the Trudeau regime to go against Canadians that want to rise against authoritarian measures, that want to rise against the global estate measures. So here's this.
Pretends to be powerful, but truly strong leaders don't assassinate their opponents. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices.
So what does this make you?
Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices. Truly strong leaders don't use police and military to oppress people's voices.
Well, if it ain't the pot calling the kettle black. The coward is trying to pick a fight to say another person's a coward. And that's because Justin Trudeau is actually a bully. Justin Trudeau, the nice hair, pretty boy, neoliberal, that Jane Fonda even said, don't get fooled by the pretty face and good looks and the fact that, oh, he sounds, right with the LGBTQ. Don't get fooled by that, because he actually is a schoolyard bully. He is the coward that he pretends not to be. He is the martyr that squashes political dissent. He is the person that's separating divide. He is the one that's persecuting opponents of his, that wants to do political attacks on people that challenge him and people as challenge his governance. These are ordinary Canadians that went against authoritarian measures done up by big pharmaceuticals, unelected leadership, that attacked ordinary Canadians and their bodily autonomy for made-up science that wasn't even factually corrected. They had no argument to stand on those points. There was proven data that the mandates were actually more hurtful to Canadians than it was beneficial. The outcomes came worse. And that's not just with the vaccine itself, not just the virus, but also how businesses were shut down, how school children fell back behind because they closed down the schools. They did homeschooling. People are financially insecure. That made people more anxious, more anxiety. Mental illnesses were skyrocketing. Suicide rates were skyrocketing. Opioid epidemic was skyrocketing. People couldn't afford shelters anymore. They became homeless because they couldn't afford a stable income. So Justin Trudeau is the ultimate martyr, and he goes on he goes on the news networks and tells them that the ultimate boogeyman is the guy across the pond, not me, who actually persecuted against ordinary Canadians. The one who actually attacked it and villainized ordinary Canadian citizens that you're supposed to be representing. And correct me if I'm wrong, I have not seen any coverage of Russia, anywhere in Russia or Moscow, having, been attacked by Vladimir Putin, having Vladimir Putin go out and say, I'm attacking my citizens because they're not standing up for mandates. I haven't seen any of this going on in Moscow. I haven't seen this anything in Russia or any of the other states, but there's been tension in Canada. There's a lot of tension in Canada. The Freedom Convoy made international news because it took Canadian truckers to finally have the balls to stand up against authoritarian measures like the mandates and tell ordinary people that we can get through this. We can stand together and go against the dark authoritarian oppression that's set upon us, that has nothing to do with actually helping people or striving through the pandemic. It was more about the business. It was more about the capital. It was the capitalization of using this pandemic as an excuse to sell off more vaccines, to get people more injected by an experimental medical procedure and villainize people that didn't comply. But they are very safe and effective. I have to make the disclaimer, because this might go on YouTube, depending how this goes. But there you go. Justin Trudeau calling Vladimir Putin a coward. It's amazing. It'd be like Chris Christie calling someone fat. Chris Christie calling someone else a fat slob. That's kind of the obvious hypocrisy, the obvious take, the pot calling the kettle black right in front of their face. It's like if Justin Trudeau doesn't even have a mirror. He can't even look upon himself. He has no inner soul to actually resemble what he did to himself. But he's definitely on board. As long as it's for Ukraine, he will step apart and he will hypocrite himself, and he will damage more of his reputation to make sure he stands with his favorite confidant, Ukraine, Zelensky, and the neo-Nazis supporting him.